Hello, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Noel Sayer. I am the Planet Australia concierge and your host for the webinar today. Before we get started, I'd just like to let everyone know that we're recording this session, this webinar. The format for our webinar today is essentially an introduction and overview to Cabinet Vision Core and cabinets. Some of you may be familiar with the content our presenter is going to show today. However, if you have any questions, and they do arise, we do ask that you please type them into the Q&A section of the chat, which I'll be opening shortly. We would like to allocate some time towards the end today for questions. However, as we do have a large audience expected today, we'll capture any of the questions and we'll be sure to follow up with you with each and every one after the webinar. I'd like to introduce today our key presenter, Damien Sentong, from our service team, who will be taking us through the webinar. And we're joined from our sales team. Very happy to welcome some of our account managers, Laura Cross and Daniel O'Connell, and from our business development managers, Chris Tang. Without any further ado, I'd like to hand over to Damien. Take it away, Damien.
Thanks, Noel. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar for Core and Cabinets. Just a bit of a note, I will be switching between screens with the PowerPoint presentation as well as the demonstrations I'll be doing in Cabinet Vision. So before I actually begin to explain and demonstrate Core and Cabinets, I figured I would give a little bit of a history lesson into what Cabinet Vision used to be and what it is now. So I'd like to start off with explaining the legacy of Cabinet Vision. So what I mean by legacy is any version that was prior to version 2021. Now, this includes versions from 12, 11, 10, 9, all the way back to 8 and all the older versions. The the functionality of the legacy products were based off a tier system. Many of you would probably know this either as Solid Essential, Solid Drafter, Solid Standard, Solid Advanced, and Solid Ultimate. Now, along with these, obviously, there was various configurations and packages within these tier levels. So from version 2021, Hexagon decided to kind of revamp the product to make it a bit more suitable to suit customers' processes. Now, when they revamped it, they reintroduced it as Cabinet Vision Reimagined. So what we see here is the full product wheel of Cabinet Vision itself. So as you can see in the middle, we're starting with the core. Now from core, this is the heart and the soul of Cabinet Vision. From there, a customer would generally pick their best solution, whether it be cabinets or closets. Now, I will be demonstrating some of those features between cabinets and closets. They do share they both do share similarities with variable differences between the two solutions here. So what is core and cabinets? So core and cabinets is the beginning of a journey for anyone that's starting to use Cabinet Vision or they are migrating from an older version. Now, when I say migrating is anyone coming from a legacy version or product of Cabinet Vision. Generally for Solid, Standard, Advanced, and Ultimate, once their products are migrated, they are supplied with core and cabinets. So as you can see, core is the heart of Cabinet Vision. So this is, like I said, everyone begins with core. And then from there, it's a gateway into additional solutions. So if I just go back one slide, so if you're selecting core and cabinets, you do then have the ability to venture out and add various solutions here to make your processes a bit more efficient. So we'll start with explaining and demonstrating some of the features of core and cabinets. So what I'll be doing now is I'll be switching my screen over to Cabinet Vision. Now, currently I have version 2023 open at the moment, which is the version
I stay here?
latest to date. So as we can see here, we have our main splash screen. And just to show you the products I am currently using within my license, you can see that I do have core and cabinets as well as closets. So like I said, we'll briefly go over what functionality they both provide. So starting with I guess the most powerful function of core and cabinets is the ability to have various construction assemblies. Now, up on the top ribbon bar here, many of you may be familiar with this. So as we can see under the construction tab, we do have assembly. So if I click on the assembly tab here, I'll just bring that window up. You can see that we have opened up the assembly manager. Now the assembly manager is the way how you would configure various construction methods to suit your standards, or for anyone that uses Cabinet Vision mainly for design purposes, you can create various construction methods tailor-made to suit your third-party manufacturers. This obviously streamlines the process if you are sharing files between companies and individuals. So as you can see here, we do have the assembly, and then below that you would have your drop-down with various construction methods. Some may have a lot, or some may have very few, just depending on the extent of your processes and operation. So with the assembly manager, it is highly customizable, ranging or starting from the interior of a cabinet all the way to the exterior, as well as assigning various connections and operations for parts to be joined. So as a brief example here, you can see on the left, we have our categories here. So interior case, exterior, operations, and connections. Along with each of these categories, you would have a subcategory relative to the various parts that you will be making adjustments to or amending to suit your construction method. Now, the great thing about this is it gives you an understanding of exactly what you're selecting on the right-hand side here with an illustration. And to understand what the assembly manager is, if you were to double click onto one of the parts here, it will open up a new window with your standards. Now, with these standards are quite simple for individuals to understand, as the standards are question-based. So I won't go through all of this in finer detail, but as you can see, the first question for an adjustable shelf is define the banding for an adjustable shelf. So it'll give you your various options on the bottom. So the face of the part, meaning your front edge, the back of the part, so the back of the edge, and end would be the left and right of the part. With each of these questions, we'll provide you various options with the drop-down. So if you select the drop-down here, you can either have none, exterior banding, interior banding, or the options would be relevant to exactly what you're adjusting. Now, along with applying these specific options, you can also set conditions depending on the type of assembly that you need it to affect it to. So up the top here, you can see it is set to a default, meaning it will take effect across the board, whether it be for your base cabinets, tall cabinets, as well as upper cabinets. So by selecting the addition symbol here, you can see that we're faced with different cabinet types. So you do have upper cabinets ranging all the way to your tall cabinets. So this is the power of the assembly manager. Further on, I will demonstrate to you how efficient and effective it is if you have multiple assembly methods in the one file. So I'm just going to close that window, and I will move on to starting a new job. So what I'll be demonstrating here is the powers of the various construction methods, as well as how they affect the cabinet. So as you can see with the job properties, inclusive with cabinets, core and cabinets, you'll see that you have your job properties would be relevant to all your project information. And then moving on, you would have it for your room properties as well. So within Cabinet Vision, you can have multiple rooms set up within the one file. So very efficient if you're doing a full house fit out. So kitchen, laundry, vanities, or various wardrobes as well. And then after that, most importantly, you have your cabinet tab here. So this is where everything takes effect within your Cabinet Vision file, starting with your construction method here. So you can see with your cabinets, if you do have multiples, then your drop down would display those. Relative also, you have your drawer box construction, and then also the materials that are going to be applied to the project. So the materials are segregated into 3 areas, being your upper, so all your overhead cabinets and panels as well, and then you have your base. So base would affect anything that is sitting on the floor, so underbench cabinets and even tall cabinets. After that, you would have your hardware setup, so your handles, which is a pull schedule, and your drawer guide schedule, which is relative to the type of drawer box construction that you've selected. Then you have your hinges, and furthermore, you also would have the type of doors that you're going to be selecting. So after cabinet, you do have closet. So this is part of the, I guess, the second solution to core. So you'd have core, then you have cabinets, but you also have closet. Now, closet is more of an option or solution to anyone that primarily focuses on wardrobe fit outs. Though the term is called closet because it obviously is an American terminology. So here, obviously, we will call it a wardrobe. Now, the closet functionality itself is great for anyone that does focus on wardrobes. It gives functionality, for example, that would allow you to create angled shoe shelves. That is quite a common question that we do receive in terms of creating an angled shelf in the cabinet for a shoe shelf. So the properties involved under the closet tab are very similar to what they are for cabinet. So you would have a construction method set up for closets, okay, and all the options, the same options with various extras would apply, the same as your cabinet construction method. So same options, construction, materials, hardware, you do have additional options for hardware, such as like closet rods. So it can produce a rod or hanging rail through this section interior, and I'll demonstrate that briefly later on. And then still you have doors and your layout tab. So I'm just going to start a job here. Okay. Now, along with core and cabinets, the ability to draw walls is inclusive as well. So as you can see, we are starting with our plan view. Now, with our plan view, we are going to place a wall. So I'm going to go over to the left here and select the wall. I'm going to drop a wall here as well. Now, along with core and cabs, it does give you options for various types of walls as well. So what we've placed here at the moment is a standard wall. So if I show you what that looks like in the 3D view, so moving my mouse up here to 3D, you can see we have a standard square wall here. Going back to my plan view, if I select the wall on the left-hand side here under the type category, we do have the style option. So under style, there is a drop down for your other different types of walls, so peninsula. Now, for those who do not understand what a peninsula wall is, it is essentially an invisible line or an invisible wall. The functionality of a peninsula wall is generally when joinery needs to be placed in a room when there's no physical wall available. So a common practice of this would probably be with an island section in the kitchen. So having the Peninsula wall here will give you the ability to place cabinets on either side of the wall. Furthermore, from Peninsula, you do have Cathedral. So if I show you what that looks like in the 3D. So Cathedral. So a cathedral would generally have the two tips pointing up, so in a like cathedral option. Now, along with that, will give you the different settings that you can apply with that. So you would have your vault height and your positioning.
Here we go.
So from cathedral, then you would have vaulted left, which would be vaulting to the left like so. If I click on the wall again and go to vaulted right, and then it'll vault in the opposite direction. So the vaulted walls are very great for in a situation if you're doing joinery, say under a stairwell, or if a wall is angled. So that's where the vaulted option really comes or is efficient for the user. Now I'm just going to change it back to a standard type. Now, along with core and cabinets, gives the user the ability to create user-defined custom like cabinet catalogs. Now, if I move my mouse over here to objects, you can see we have our catalogs here. Now, our main catalog is Planet Cabinets 2023, though the name and the types of categories inside that cabinet can be customized to suit the individual's desire or the naming conventions of the business. So for example, if I select Planet Cabinets 2023, you can see we have 4 subcategories based off the cabinet types or cabinet classes. So we have base cabinets, wall cabinets, tall and vanity cabinets. So what I'm going to do here is just grab a base cabinet. So I'll select base cabinets. And then again, it is categorized based off a different type. So a standard, corner cabinets, drawer units, and so on. So I'll just grab a standard cabinet and I will drag out a 1-door base cabinet. So I'll left click, hold and drag it out. And I'll place it onto a wall by left clicking. I'm going to cancel the function by right clicking my mouse. And what I'm going to demonstrate to you now is how various construction methods do take place within a job file. So at the moment, when we started our project, so if I go up to the job properties, under cabinet, you can see that our current method is number 1, screw dash standard. Now, these are just naming conventions. Again, they can be tailor-made to suit, you know, the business name, like abbreviated or whatever suits the user. So if I wanted to change the whole room to be a different construction method, I would then go back up to my job properties, go to my cabinet tab, select my drop down of construction methods. And let's say I do want to make it a shutter line. So I will select shutter line. I will click OK. And I will double click on the cabinet. And then as you can see here, we're on the 3D view of the assembly. And if I left click and rotate, you can see now that there is a shutter line type construction applied to the cabinet here. Now, the great thing about having core and cab with various construction methods is that not only can you change the whole room to a specific construction method, you also can do it at the assembly level. So if I go over to the section tab here, and I move my mouse under the assembly and properties, under construction, you then now have the option to change a construction method specific for that cabinet. Now, while we are in the section editor, I'll explain to you, this is probably the most powerful and exclusive function of Cabinet Vision. Now, the section editor is by far probably the most powerful way to modify a cabinet with various faces
Nobody knows.
as well as internal
We're
parts.
a bit of a mess at the moment, actually.
So what we're looking at here is the section face. Now the way that we understand that is on the ribbon bar, we have section face, and then we also have section interior. Now section face will give the Cabinet Vision user the ability to select the face here. And then on the left-hand side, you are presented with various options that you can modify to the cabinet. So as you can see here on the left, we have a single door, which is currently selected with the highlighted black dot. And then you can change it to a pair door if you need to, as well as like a drawer, a false front. The options are pretty much endless. Now, along with sectioning a face or selecting a type of face, you also have the ability to split them into various configurations. Now, up the top here on the ribbon bar, we can see that we have horizontal splits and vertical splits. Now, this is great if you have a cabinet that requires multiple faces. So for example, if I required a door across the top and a drawer on the bottom, I could select the face and then select a horizontal split. And then as you can see here, it's created two individual faces. From there, you do have the ability to change each one pretty much to what you desire. So if the top needs to be a door and the bottom needs to be a drawer, I'll select the bottom face and then I can select drawer. If I go back to the 3D view of the assembly, you can see that now we do have a door on the top and the drawer on the bottom. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, you got an adjustable shelf in the middle there. This is where the section interior comes into play. So by selecting section interior, we can see that we do have the shelf in the middle. So by selecting that, you can change that to, again, different options that are available to you on the left. So we do have a shelf, adjustable shelf, a glass shelf, and a fixed shelf. Primarily, what's commonly used would be a fixed shelf and adjustable shelf. A rollout tray is also used at times if you do have drawers that are present behind a door. So as we can see here, we have a shelf selected. Now, on top of that, you could also add extra interior parts if you needed to by selecting the interior faces here. So as you can see, I'm left-clicking, highlighting each one. Or if you want to remove the shelf, you can just select it and click the delete button and then pretty much have nothing there on the inside. So that is the power of this section editor. Not only can you do that to the face of the cabinet, on the left-hand side here, you can see we have our overall shape of the cabinet that we placed. And you are presented with the various work planes. So as you can see, with the highlighted red line, that we are currently working on the face. By selecting each of those lines, you can see now that we are presented with a different type for the cabinet. So as you can see here, I've selected the left, and the side type is an end. Along with that, you do have other end types. So you would have unfinished, which would be your standard carcass material or carcass component. And then you have a finished end, which would be in the same material generally as your door and or exposed panels. Not only can you change the type of ends, but you can also turn it into a face if you need to. So by selecting the face option up the top, you can see that you do now have the ability to apply a door, a drawer, or even a panel if you wish. So if I select a door, though this might look a bit strange, you can see that there is now a door on that side of the cabinet here. So the possibilities are endless for cabinet configurations. So I'm just going to switch back to the features for a moment. So as you can see, we have gone through the first 4 points. So cabinet constructions, catalogs, cabinet modification, as well as the various views that are provided with Core and CAB. The next one I would demonstrate is order entry. So if I'm going to switch back to Cabinet Vision now. Now, order entry is a great function, particularly for anyone that do supply flat pack joinery. So order entry allows you to place cabinets in the Cabinet Vision file without having to physically draw a room. So to access order entry, I will select the Reports tab up the top here. And then the very first option you have presented is order entry. Now, as soon as you select order entry, you are presented with your catalogs here. So all the user simply needs to do is select the cabinet and then drag it out to the list. Now, order entry is great if you provide modular size joinery in standard sizes, and then you know that's all you're going to be supplying. So though we do have a cabinet placed here, if I go back to the plan view, you can see that there's no physical cabinet present. So along with order entry, you can place anything that corresponds to a cabinet as well, so inclusive of fillers and panels. You can just pretty much drag everything out and place it onto the list. So if you've had various fillers and panels, you can just bring it out from here. The sizes are still adjustable as well. So if you do need to change them on the fly, you have the ability to do that as well. As well as the quantities as well of the cabinet. So I'm just going to flick back to the PowerPoint presentation. So that's order entry. We have also covered the walls as well. Now, moving on to the next slide, you can see the next feature is creating materials and importing 3D models for those materials. So if I just switch back to the Cabinet Vision. So I'm just going to close this job down. Now, to create your own materials, up on the top ribbon bar, we have the material tab here. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to drag this window up for you all. As you can see here on the left-hand side, these are your list or categories of materials that are available to you. Now, this is the material manager for those that haven't seen it before. The material manager is essentially where all your materials are initially created, and you can also apply them into your Cabinet Vision projects. So the most common materials that are created generally would be your draw guides, so your draw runners. If I expand on draw guide here, you can see that it has been categorized based off the manufacturers and suppliers. Now, the organization of the material manager is completely up to the user as well. So the categorization can be a bit different. So if I expand on Bloom here, you can see I'm presented with the various draw systems provided and that are available in Cabinet Vision version 2023. So if I do select on Entaro, you can see that I'm presented with the numerous materials related to those draw guides. Now, within each of these materials would all have their own independent properties. So to access those properties, I would first select the material, then I would click on the properties tab up here on the ribbon bar. So as you can see here, you are presented with a new window for material properties. From here, it does provide you basic information of the material, starting with the name and description, the type of material. So as this is a draw, it is a draw guide. And then you have more so like a costing information here. So with core and cabinets, you do have the ability to do basic costing, and a lot of that information is relevant to what is placed on the material. So for example, the default cost, you could place in the default costing here, as well as the tax rate for GST, and then you can also import specific models. So as you can see, there is an option to load a model, which is selected to be true. By selecting true, we'll then make the option in the top right corner of the window for model to be able to be selected. So if I select on model, we are now in the model editor for this draw guide. So as you can see, we are in the 3D view, and we are currently looking at the model of the draw guide. Though this is a generic model for draw systems that are created in Cabinet Vision, by selecting the primary work plane on a view, so you need to have the view in one of these selections here. So if I go to the front view, by selecting the primary work plane, you do have the ability to add hardware. So a 3D model can come from a DXF file, and most commonly would probably come from a SketchUp file. One thing to note with importing models into a material, the sizes are pretty much fixed to when you import them. So if you do have a model that needs to be variable in size, it's just something to be mindful of. So it's mainly if it's a fixed model, like a draw runner with various sizes. So I'm just going to exit the model editor here. So yeah, draw guide materials. For anyone that are looking to create their own draw guides, this is the ability to do so within Core and Cabinets. So it is quite simple to do. You do just imply various types of information. You have different categories based off the height, the length and extension of the runner itself. And then most importantly, you do have an operations tab here. And by doing so, this will give you your various options to apply the drilling for your runners. So your positions, hole diameters and depths as well, inclusive of the drilling for the draw bracket and draw front. The next common material that's generally accessed in the material manager would be sheet material. So in this situation, it is categorized under panel stock. So by expanding panel stock, we can see we do have various other categories based on the type of material. So I will be selecting particle board here. Now you can see with particle board, we are presented with 3 different types of material. So 16 mil white, 16 mil black, and 25 mil white HMR. Now, much like the draw guide, you are presented with different material properties. However, depending on the type of material, the properties of it will vary. Generally, the initial information is mostly the same, though with a sheet material, we do have a size category here. So you can see that we have the width of the sheet, the length of the sheet, and then importantly, the thickness of the sheet. So that's the functionality of creating materials and applying models for those specific materials. Now I'll just flick back to the PowerPoint. So the next point down would be custom molding. Now, moldings within Cabinet Vision are primarily used for aesthetic purposes, though it can elevate anyone's design skill set to the next level if you have not used it before. What I'll do now is I'll demonstrate how exactly they apply to a Cabinet Vision project. So by selecting a new job here, you can see the very last tab of your job properties is molding. So with moldings, there are various types of moldings. So as you can see, we have applied, baseboard, casing, ceiling, a chair rail, crown, light rail, and scribe. Now, the most common categories that would be selected would either be a baseboard, a ceiling, or a crown. Now, a baseboard generally would apply to, it could be used as floor skirting on walls, or you can draw them in if you do have a profile type kick face. So I'll demonstrate how that applies now. So I'm just going to select OK and start the job. And then I will place a wall. So from here, I'm going to select molding on the left. Now with molding, you are presented with the type of molding that you wish to apply to the room. So if you need various types of moldings applied, you would need to go back and change the type, then apply it to the room. So what I'll do is I'll apply a ceiling molding first. Okay, you do have two options in terms of generating the actual molding on the wall itself. You can either auto build. So auto build would give you the option to do the entire room, or the current wall face. So the current wall face is relative to this dotted red box here. Selecting it for the entire room would place the moldings either side of the wall. So I'm going to use the auto build function and just select a current wall face and select OK. Now you can see it has placed the object on the wall. So if I just click return and then I go to 3D, you can see now we do have a molding on the wall, which in this case looks pretty similar to your standard ceiling cornice you would find in most homes. So going back to molding, I will change the type to a baseboard. And then again, I will just auto build it using the current wall face, selecting OK. Select return, and then I'll go back to my 3D view. And then you can see it has applied a baseboard molding to the floor. So again, this is a great function for anyone looking to elevate their, I guess, their design skill set in terms of presentation to your customers in these types of drawings. It does take that interior design aspect to the next level as well. So I'm just going to flick back to PowerPoint. So the next point I would like to touch on is basic job costing. Now, relative to what I was talking about before with materials and the costings that you can assign to materials, will all translate into the Cabinet Vision file. Now, I will just start by placing a cabinet onto the floor. Now, as you can see, we do have a cabinet here. Now, to access the job costing would be a function called Bid Center. Now, to access Bid Center, we go up to Reports, just under the ribbon bar here. And then on the left, under Order Entry, we have Bid Center. So as you can see here, you are presented with a default template. Now, this template and functionality is provided when you utilize core and cabinets. You can take costing or bidding to a further extent with the addition of the multiplier known as XBidding. Now, XBidding, to put in summary, will allow you to create multiple price tables depending on the area you're wishing to calculate. So you could have a table if you had pricing for particular builders or particular customers. You could also have price tables relative to doors you supply. So that would be called a door matrix. Now, focusing on what we currently have in front of us is a basic template for a costing. Now, you can modify certain areas within the default template here. So if I go to the ribbon bar and select options, you can see you do have some options that you can select. So if you wish to supply or show prices based on the type of material, you can either select or deselect your options that are presented to you. You also can apply a price based off the length of joinery. So if we go to length totals on the second tab here, you can see show the total for your cabinets. So it's relative to per meter. And from here, you would just place in a costing, click OK, and would calculate a price based off the type of cabinet it is. Now you can edit certain areas, so you can highlight this and type anything in if you so wish. But yeah, this is the basic costing that is given with Corian cabinets. Moving on from costing would be simple rendering within Cabinet Vision as well. So if I select my 3D view again, you can currently see we do have a pretty basic render of what we've currently drawn within the room. So at the moment, it is a pretty simple 3D view. So with the rendering capabilities, you are presented with 3 different modes that you can select from. So on the top ribbon here, we do have our rendering modes. So you have wire. So wire will give you more of a transparent and see-through, which you can look inside of the cabinet. If you have various operations placed, you can look at that from a 3D perspective. Changing it from wire mode to fill mode. Fill mode will display a color or a flat color that has been either assigned to the material or you have assigned in the room. Now to assign a finish or a color while you're in the 3D view, you do have finishes on the left-hand side here. So by selecting that, you are presented with the different finishes that you can apply to the job or the cabinet in particular, or just a specific item. When you do select a category, you are presented with the colors on the side here. Generally, it's always going to default the color that's assigned for the material. So if you wish to have a different color, you would deselect use material finish. And then from here, you would be able to assign the color from there. So after fill mode, you do have texture mode. Now, texture mode is great if the material that you are working with or you wish to display to the customer does have a physical texture. So most commonly would be like a grain material. So by selecting the texture function on the bottom, on the left-hand side, again, you are presented with the different categories. So if we want to change the assembly exterior, by clicking on that, you are presented with the texture manager. Now, textures can be imported as well, so you aren't limited to what's currently set up in your Cabinet Vision database. It is a simple process of finding your image and then importing it into the system ready for use. So as you can see here with the options that we are presented with, we do have some countertop colors based off one of the biggest suppliers with Caesarstone. And then most commonly would be laminate and color panels, and then would be supplied with our 3 big material suppliers here. So again, these categories can be customized to suit the user depending on the type of material or type of supplier that they so use. Now, upon just applying finishes and textures, you do have the ability to adjust lighting in the room as well. So by selecting lights, you are presented with the light editor. Now, the light editor will allow you to place various different types of lights, depending on what type of lighting or shadow effects that you are trying to achieve. I won't go into too much detail with this, though it's more so to the user and a lot of trial and error trying to get the lighting correct. Now with Core and Cabinets, the basic rendering enhancements that you are provided with are the enhance function here on the top of the ribbon bar. Now, as you can see at the moment, the lines are quite jagged and doesn't look that great. So by selecting enhance, you can see now all the lines have been smoothed out as the enhance applies anti-aliasing to the image. From here, you can supply drawings to a customer with using Core and Cab. So by right-clicking anywhere on your screen, you can send it to the Drawings tab. Now, the Drawings tab is a great function from when you're starting to do your layout ready for presentation. So if I right-click and were to send this to the drawing, if I then select the Drawings tab here, we are now presented with the drawing page. So as you can see at the moment, we do have a title block assigned. So with Core and Cab, you can assign title blocks, and these title blocks can be customized again to suit the customer's needs. So for example, if you wish to place your company logo, it's a simple matter of importing the image and then placing that onto the title block. Now, to be able to edit the actual title block itself, up on the top ribbon bar, you do have the drawings library. And as you can see, we are presented with the title block. By selecting a title block, you can then edit. And then from here, this is where you would make your absolute customizations to your title block. So if you, like I said, if you wish to place your company logo, you do have the ability to insert an image. Now, a lot of this I did cover in our previous webinar for X2D CAD. So if anyone's wishing to watch that webinar, it is available on the Planet YouTube channel. So with presenting drawings to a customer, we are provided with available scenes on the left-hand side here, which you can simply drag out. Now from here, the user has the ability to change the various scale to suit the page as well. Once you are happy with presenting everything, setting out your drawing page, you can then print. So preference, whether it be if you print directly to your printer or if you have a PDF copy that you can submit to your customer. Now, along with supplying drawings, you can also supply various types of sheets. Now, these sheets can range from the plan and elevations, assembly, and part sheets. So to access those sheets, if we go back to the reports tab here, on the left-hand side, you can see we are presented with 3 options for our different types of sheets. Now, plan and elevation, if we select that, you can see that we are presented with either the plan or the wall that we wish to send to the drawing or print directly. So what I'll do is by just selecting the wall number 1, so the front of the wall, then I'll just send that to the drawing. Once you select that, you are presented with the paper size and orientation. And then we select OK. Now, if I go back to my drawings tab, and you can see my next sheet has a the wall elevation, and then the cabinet that is placed on the wall. To demonstrate the next two, assembly sheet. Now, assembly sheets are great to supply to anyone on the factory floor. The assembly sheet will give a pretty detailed list of information that's relative to any specific cabinet. So if I do select assembly sheet and I select my one door base cabinet, I'll again send that to the drawing. Go back to my drawings tab, go to the next page, and you can see this is the assembly sheet that it is presented. Now with Core and Cab, this is the generic layout that is used, though as you can see, it is quite informative in regards to the name, the size, which room the cabinet is in, as well as all the various parts and hardware that's involved with the assembly sheet. Now to demonstrate last out of these is the part sheet. Now the part sheet will give you individual pages based off the individual parts for the cabinet. So by selecting part sheet, we select our cabinet again, send it to the drawing. Going to the next page, and you can see it has created multiple sheets based off the individual parts of the cabinet. Now, one topic I have not briefly explained to you is the solution of closets, which is the counterpart to cabinets. Now, what I'll do is I'll demonstrate it by selecting a tall cabinet, placing it onto the wall. I will double click onto the cabinet. I'll go to my section under my assembly properties in general. As the common solution selected here in our market in Australia is cabinets, I do need to change the cabinet class. So if I select general, under class, I will select it as closet. Select OK. Now what I'll do here is I will remove everything from the cabinet. I will then go to my section interior, select the face, and then just conduct a horizontal split. Now, once you do horizontal split and you select the part, when you do have closets selected with core, or if you have both of them, so core cabinets and closets, you are presented with extra options when the cabinet class is changed to closet. So as you can see here, we have a shoe shelf, wire basket, and a hanging rod. So the most common thing that we see nowadays with wardrobes is a shoe shelf. Now, if I select the shoe shelf, and if I go to my 3D view, you can see it does place a shelf with a fascia, and the part is on an angle. I will just increase the transparency just so we can all see it. So as you can see here, we do have an angled shelf with a fascia and the stop rail on the shelf. Now, when you do place a shoe shelf, you have adjustments to apply the angle. Now, the angle is always going to be set to 0. All the user would need to do is just apply the desired angle. So if the shelf needs to be at 45 degrees, the user will simply put in 45, hit enter. And as you can see already through the section view, it has changed. I go back to my 3D. You can see now the shelf does get placed on a 45-degree angle. Now, the benefit of having closet would be that creating these angle shelves, and if you do have drilling assigned, will create that for the shelving for you. With using cabinets, most users would need to manually adjust the angle of the shelf. So if I select the end view and I select my shelf, the rotation would need to be adjusted with using the manual configuration here. It is also easier to assign a hanging rail with using closets. As you can see, we've selected the section interior. And then on the left-hand side under types, we do have an option for hanging section. Once you select that, you are presented with other adjustments, such as the reference, as in the horizontal movement of the rail. The top clearance would be from the top of your interior section to the rail. So you are able to adjust this if you need to. And if we go to our 3D view, you can see that the rail model is there, as well as the drilling assigned. Obviously, with hanging rails, there are various configurations which would be achievable using the hanging section here. To look at the last two options that we have with core and cabs that are supplied, are user-defined object intelligence. Now, this will let the user to actually apply various formulas to parts or objects themselves. Now, this would come into play if Cabinet Vision users are familiar with the object tree on the bottom left corner here. As you can see, as I select each part, it will generate a formula across the top, which we can then copy and assign to parts. Just for future reference, object intelligence will be covered in a future webinar in the coming months. So for anyone that is interested and wishing to learn a bit more, please do keep an eye out for that one. Lastly, with core and cabinets, you do have the ability to create user-created standards, or UCS for short. When you are inside of a Cabinet Vision job or not, under the Utilities tab, you do have the option for user-created standards. Now, user-created standards are written parameters by a user that allow you to either provide further functionality to an area where you deem that you've maximized its use. UCSs can also be used to create as well as completely override certain areas of the Cabinet Vision software. So they are all the current features with using core and cabinets. That is all the time that I have to present to you. I do thank you all for your time from sitting down and watching me present this to you. I hope a lot of you are intrigued by this, and I look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Damien, for that great walkthrough. I'm sure that everybody was able to gain something there today. And there's always something new, even if you've been using the program for a while. So I'd like to advise everybody, as Damien said, we're getting pretty close to the end of the allocated time. Just to wrap up, if you would like to learn even more about core and cabinets, anything you've seen today, anything more in depth, you can book a session with our expert team for one-to-one customization training and education sessions by visiting our booking page on our website, or otherwise please feel free to contact us at the email address that's shown on your screen at the moment for assistance with making bookings if you need any help or anything at all related to today's subject matter or anything you see in our webinars. A quick note also about our next webinar, which will be Solid Setup Plus, and that is coming up on the 15th of May. So keep a lookout for the email blast that will be coming out soon, and also on our events page on the address shown on the screen here also can be found on the Planet Australia website, and you can register for those for that and any future webinars as they're advised. So once again, thanks to everybody for joining us today. We certainly appreciate you sharing your valuable time, and we know it's hard to find that time sometimes, but we hope that you have enjoyed the session as much as we have presenting it to you. From Damien and I, together with Laura, Daniel and Chris, from all of our team, and of course, on behalf of everybody here at Planet Australia, we'd like to wish you a great rest of the day and what's remaining in the week ahead. So bye for now, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.